I will tell you that it wasn't as calculated as I really want you to
Right.
hear, right? Like I want to tell you that there was this great epiphany.
There's no aha moment.
There was an aha moment, but
Okay.
it wasn't as like distinct as I wish I would have been.
Okay.
But I can tell you that there's, when somebody understands their value, I feel like they're unstoppable.
Right.
And I think that there was this point in my life where there was this moment of clarity.
Right.
Where I was just like, this is not my life.
Right.
Like, this is not my life, and I can do way more than whatever I'm doing right now.
Sure.
And it literally came out of a serving shift, which is the most bizarre thing ever. But I just served on a day that I would have never served. We opened on a Sunday. We never open on Sundays. Did my shift. It wasn't really that busy. Went downstairs, cashed out, talking to my best friend Dan and Kendra, and we're just like talking. And I think we were talking about my relationship.
Right.
And then
both awesome people, by the way.
Oh, amazing people.
Absolutely.
Just amazing people.
Yeah.
So we were talking about it, and I don't even remember the conversation. But I drove home, and it's sometimes, when people are like, things are just meant to be.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So,
absolutely.
yeah. So it was funny because this was the one time that I left. So we closed early. I left, and apparently my ex saw my car drive by Jack Astor's downtown.
Right.
And I had a very distinct car then. Like, I was probably one of 3 people in the city that had my car.
Okay.
So, like, you knew it was me.
Okay.
Right?
What kind of car was that? I'm trying to think if I
It was
remember.
that little red Volvo C30 that I had.
Okay.
And at the time, like, nobody had them.
Right.
Right? So, and no one really had red ones.
Okay.
So he said he saw me drive by, and his personality type would be like, wrap up whatever I'm doing, also going home. Because I didn't tell him I was going home.
Right.
But he didn't.
Right.
Which was very weird. He just stayed at Jack Astor's, continued drinking with his buddy.
Really?
I went home, and I literally just took all of my personal belongings that were the most important to me and just jammed them in my car.
Wow.
And, like, I have a lot of clothes. So, like, I don't think I've ever actually done anything so big in such little time.
Drastic.
But I was
Yeah.
so motivated to get out.
Right. Just because you felt like you had a window? Is that what it was?
I think it's because I felt like I had a window, but I also feel like I had this realization that this had to end.
Right.
That this was, if he was to become a better person, I was not the person that was going to make him better.
Right.
Like, I was just not fit for that position.
Sure.
Whoever that person is, like, that's
More power
awesome.
to 'em.
More power to them. You're right. But it wasn't me.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
Right.
it was the decision that it was almost a decision that was selfish, but also a decision that I think at the time I was like, no, I think we both need this. Like, I need this, but he needs this. Like, I can't be that person.
I don't
in his
think
life.
anyone would argue that that's a selfish decision by any means. I think that's like self-preservation.
Well,
I find that the women we've talked to, a lot of them are more apathetic in the sense where they always seem the other side of it.
Like if they're his problems and stuff.
They're always putting a lot of their problems further ahead than they should.
I think
notice.
there's part of you though that has to understand why things are happening, right? And there's part of you that just says, okay, if I'm, like, I know a ton of people, and I don't really think that I'm overly hated. Do you know what I mean?
No,
like
no.
Like I think I have a lot. Like, I have a lot of friends. I know a lot of people in the city. So I'm like, okay,
overly hated.
Well, you always try to help everyone.
Yeah.
When I've been with
try.
You, you've tried to do the best by everyone that you can.
I think there's this part of you that says, okay, so if I'm well liked by my surrounding peer group,
right?
Why is it that I cannot get along with this one person?
Because you're probably liked by everybody.
Who's supposed to love you the most?
Right, who's supposed to love you the most.
Right.
So there's this part of you that says, okay, there has to be other reasons this is happening.
You can do that.
Oh, wait. I'm going to slow this
You're
down.
going to wait for her to finish?
I'll wait for her to finish.
Should I pause?
Yeah,
okay.
Opa.
But yeah, there's this part of you that tries to understand the other person. And I think now... I don't want to say that it's me justifying the action,
sure,
but there has to be a motivating factor. Like, people just don't like break you down for absolutely no reason. Like, it wasn't happening because he was bored, right? Like, it was happening because there was other reasons, whether they're on his end or my end or whatever they were.
Right.
It doesn't matter. It's like everything happens for a reason, right?
Yeah.
So there's part of you that again just tries to figure out, why did this happen? So it goes back to, like, how did I get myself into this situation, right? It's like these like questions that you may not be able to answer, but
sure. Yeah.
But yeah.
And you made that decision, you went and you didn't look back. So good for you. Because was there ever a part of you that wanted to give a second chance? Or were you done at that moment?
I think there was No, I think there was no part of me that seriously wanted to do it. I think there's always like when there's a breakup, there's always these parts that you're like, maybe this will work. But I think that
hypotheticals.
There was always these hypotheticals, absolutely, or these kind of little temptations. But I think on a very serious note, there was never ever an effort because we were just so toxic together.
Good for you. That's a hard thing to do.
It is a hard thing to do.
And the unfortunate thing is, I see it all the time.
Totally.
Too much.
All the time.
Way
totally.
Too much.
And I think that my situation is probably on a very low end of the spectrum in comparison to what other women are experiencing.
Yeah.
I think that women experience it more than we know because you spend a lot of time hiding it.
Right.
And I think my situation was exposed more so because I think a lot of things happened in front of a lot of other people.
Well, they happened at the bar
They happened at the bar.
It was pretty public a lot of the time.
A lot of the times it was really public. And I think that's what made my situation unique. And I think that part of me is also there where I'm fine talking about it because it's like there is literally nothing to hide.
Right.
This, like, half the stuff didn't even happen behind closed doors.
Exactly.
So it's like, if someone can learn from this or take something from it,
and that's
then,
what this is about. This is about. So, like, what would you tell someone that's currently in the exact same situation that you were going through? What would your words of advice be and empowerment for them?
I think the biggest thing is that I think there's a lot of people that don't want to leave situations because they think that they think that their world will fall apart because they're now not with that person,
right?
Or they feel like they're dependent on that person.
But even if there is codependency, why do you want that? Like, I'm a firm believer that everybody needs to be an individual and complement the other person, not depend on the other person.
Absolutely, you're absolutely right, right? But I think that when you think that there is a dependency there, it's really hard to move on.
And it's
right?
maybe hard to admit.
Yes, and there's another part of it too that I think what people don't really get is. Why is it not so easy to leave? Like, why is this, like, if it happens one time? I can
hear that in the microphone. Sorry. Keep going. That was really funny.
Well, top me up while you're
doing it. Might as well. Give her some more
all
wine.
the noise
what I was
out
quickly going to say while I'm pouring is that I've been on the other side of the spectrum when I was in the male situation.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And the reason why you don't want to leave.
What, you were in an abusive relationship from the female side?
More mentally on my side, me not being a good guy.
Oh.
From my past.
Nothing
extravagant, but just not being the best boyfriend I could be.
Yeah.
That's something I'll get into eventually.
Yeah.
But what it is you don't want to leave because change is scary.
Change is scary.
Totally
we are
scary.
creatures of habit.
Everything.
Absolutely.
And we're conditioned to be in a situation, and you feel like...
Thank you, bartender.
No problem. Yeah. I poured that terribly,
potentially again.
Yeah,
I poured that terribly, by the way.
Yeah.
It's okay. Mike Robertson will work on training you.
There we go.
You will be his project.
Yeah, I want to be trained by Mike, too.
He's a great bartender. He's bartender of the year.
Yes, he is a great... Yes, he's won awards.
Yeah. I saw it on Facebook. That's awesome.
So the problem is sometimes when you're in a situation like that, for the male side, it's a fear of lack of control. Because once you get in that situation, you have a little bit of control. Now, you may not be controlling the other person,
right?
But you're controlling your own situation.
Right.
And when you leave that person, you don't have control of what happens to you.
Right.
You don't know who you're going to be with. You don't know. They don't know those things. It's fun to start out fresh with someone new.
Yeah.
It's always exciting.
Yeah.
But then you may not like something about the next person you're with.
Right.
That the other person doesn't have. And it's a fear of losing out on things that you really cherish at that time.
Right.
Regardless if you're in a toxic situation or not, there are things that you enjoy and cherish.
Right.
Yeah,
and
not every moment is that, right?
No,
like, not every like you do have good moments, right?
So
it's just
there's things that you probably didn't want to lose.
The good moments have to severely outweigh the bad moments. That's how it should be in a healthy relationship.
Absolutely. Or the bad moments need to be productive. Like when you're having an argument or whatever, disagreement, you're learning a lesson or you're learning more about the other person and then you're moving past it. Exactly. And when you're in a situation where you're not, it's just repetitive. Yeah. You're just kind of cycling.
Right.
But there is a point where I think there's part of this situation that's not addressed is the fact that it's hard for women to get out when they're kind of not mentally stuck or emotionally stuck, but literally physically stuck.
Right.
So there's this
keeping tabs on you and
like keeping tabs on you or I will do this if you do that, or if you leave, then I'm going to come after you or whatever, or there's repercussions, right? So there's like this fear that's instilled, right? Or the fact that you don't want them to hurt themselves because if you leave.
Was that ever a threat? Like, was there ever a threat of like, I'm going to kill myself? Or
absolutely, that was like a huge part of it.
What do you think?
That was a huge part of it.
You know how many women have come on the show and said similar stories to that? And that's part of the reason we call it sex and suicide, is we're trying to figure out what actually we obviously don't want anyone to die by suicide. We don't want anyone to think that.
Or die by sex.
Yeah. That's a better way to go, I find.
Yeah, if there's one,
Yeah, I would want to go that way, but that's just me.
Myself included.
Yeah, exactly.
Depends if you're in prison or not.
That a girl. And but
you missed what I said.
I mean, just going down that road, we don't want. We were trying to break stigma, but we also want to separate the people that are actually just looking for attention and the people that are severely mentally, capable of doing it.
Absolutely. And those are two different, very, very different
They are
things,
very
right?
different things.
There is a whole group of people that can utilize that to their advantage to control a situation versus people who are actually in that state, right? Where they do not value or appreciate themselves, or feel that they're a burden to the rest of their peer group or society, depending on how big it is, right?
Sure.
So there is, but the thing is that it's very difficult to distinguish those two,
Absolutely.
right? And as somebody who is not in that situation,
you don't know.
It's very, I think it's kind of like, how do you judge that? How do you really judge that? You know, like at what point, does a doctor become an expert at deciding those two things or determining those two things?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it's very, very difficult because you don't really know. And you don't really know if the people that are in that, what you deem as attention or controlling manipulation are also still part of that group, but just maybe on a lesser level.
Right.
Just because it's such a bizarre way to control somebody, right?
Yeah.
Because you are now putting yourself in jeopardy to control another person.
It's fucked up.
It is fucked up.
It really is.
Totally fucked up.
Oh man. So like I'm still kind of in shock a little bit because I can never, like, having lost a best buddy to suicide.
Yep.
I've heard this time and time again, how people have threatened to take their own life based on the fact that a relationship could end.
Yes.
And it makes like I don't know what to feel about it. It's like, it kind of makes it is confusing. It makes my heart, like, I'm sad for the person that could even say something like that. Because what a way to make someone else feel guilty as fucking hell. Like,
when you don't want to lose someone, you'll do anything to keep them, even if it's against their own will.
But the thing is if you truly love someone, then you want them to be happy regardless of whether or not they're with you.
The problem is people confuse themselves with obsession and infatuation with love.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and I think that's a bigger and bigger problem now in relationships.
Especially with social media, and think that they need this person for their social status.
100%.
Yeah,
and people,
absolutely.
Yeah, and people always wanting to, like, I've had conversations recently about people like, why don't you post us on Facebook more? Why aren't we on your Instagram account? Like, who gives a shit? If you're in the fucking moment with someone, and they're showing you're with that person, what does it matter if you are on
their social
everyone
media
else's phone or not?
Yeah.
Like, to me, that's a huge red flag and a big insecurity, and I can't.
Fucking hate it. Yeah.
It makes me like mad.
I think that social media, like, sorry.
Put your chip just a bit.
Oh, sorry. I told you.
It's always fun.
Nice voice. Let's hear it.
I know.
Brandon has the most, like,
he's very technical.
He is, but this is where OCD and ADHD. Yeah, you're not OCD. You're ADHD.
No,
okay, ADHD, because he'll notice little things and he'll quickly correct them. I've noticed that.
Honestly, it's only because I'm short.
I try to take my. It's a disorder. Actually, my mic just went weird on me. It's a disorder that I try to take the advantages of using from.
Right.
I have no attention span whatsoever. So sometimes I'm like,
you will. You just need to work on it.
But we already talked about this. I have the ability. This is a weird subject change. I'm sorry, guys, but I have the ability to hyperfocus. So if I want to learn something, I'm a savant when it comes to retaining anything.
I would love to be like.
He's firsthand witness of it.
His UFC knowledge is off the charts.
I would love
I don't even care to know it. I just know
oh my
it.
God, I would love to be in that situation where I could hyper focus on something. Oh my God, because if you really think about in a day how many things happen to you if you're a very busy person, and if you can have that moment in time where you could just really focus on this and just ignore everything else, it's incredible.
You can't choose it. It has to be something you're very passionate about and love. I can't choose what I want. So here's the thing: if I'm interested in something and I read a book, and I would retain everything.
Wow.
But if it's something simple, very simple and very mundane, I can read it a paragraph and I'm like, I don't care.
Is this why you quit on me? I never made you love bartending.
No.
We're gonna get deep right now.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. I already told you the reason.
Yeah.
I know.
It's because everybody smells. No, I was kidding.
Do you find that you get bored more quickly?
Absolutely.
Because I would think that's one of the reasons is you just probably I'm bored of this job now. And
well, not just that. Sometimes you're not challenged mentally.
Right.
And if you are challenged mentally, it's not the way that you excel at.
Sure.
So like, for instance, like you asked me if I get bored easily. I'm always doing something because I don't like my own company because I can always do something else. So if I'm bored, I'm never just sitting there and being, so that's why I want to work on meditating with you.
Yeah.
So I learn how to be in the moment because I don't like being in the moment because I'm always wanting to do something different.
Well, that's anxiety too, by the way.
I don't really get anxiety. I don't.
But if you're always looking, if being in the moment makes you uncomfortable, and you can't just sort of focus on breathing and look around and just be still, that's you're anxious.
Well, I have ADHD.
Then I totally have anxiety.
Yeah.
Based on that definition, I 100%